of the show, our three questions that
with Sugar Fix in Chicago with Dr. Jessica Emery. So thank you so much for jumping on.
I mean, I'm still gonna work on it, but yeah.
Then right away, as soon as that first thing comes out, they sign up for
it. It is my pleasure to introduce you today to Dr. Rayan Skafi. He received his DMD degree from the University of St. Joseph, where he also earned a Certificate of Advanced Graduate Studies in Prosthodontics. He worked in a private dental practice for 4 years before pursuing a master's degree in biotechnologies management from ESCP Europe in Paris. After that, he started working at a dental monitoring, a leading innovator of dental technology, as a clinical education officer. Dr. Skafi works closely with global key opinion leaders in the dental industry to develop and implement a strong educational program, teaching dental professionals how to adapt innovative technologies such as AI-driven solutions and teledentistry in order to evolve their practices. Dr. Skafi believes that patient empowerment and technological development are making space for the delocalization of healthcare, requiring not only the adoption of disruptive technologies, but also changes in stockholder systems and attitudes. Without further ado, let me introduce you to Dr. Rayan Skafi on today's episode of the Dental Tech Chat podcast.
Hello and welcome to Dental Tech Chat. I am your host, Allie, and I'm so pleased to introduce you guys to Dr. Rayan Skafi, our clinical education officer at Dental Monitoring in Paris. Thank you so much for taking the time this afternoon to meet with us here on Dental Tech Chat.
Thank you so much for having me, Ali. It's such a pleasure to be here. Just before we start the discussion, I am French, so excuse my, I have some accent sometimes, so excuse me about that.
Oh, no excuse at all. This is so amazing to have you from all the way across the world here with us today and explaining what the technologies that you're using and everything you've been learning with AI. So I'm so excited. I know you have such a great influence in this industry, and your history and background, you have such an exceptional experience, an example of showing what innovation is in technology. So I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Ali. Pleasure is all mine.
Everybody, that you have such exceptional experience. You've been a practicing dentist before. You've worked in a private practice. So if you guys haven't already listened to the beginning intro, make sure you check that out. And I have his links down below to check out his podcast as well at Dental Monitoring in Paris. So you guys can go check out his amazing podcast. So I wanted to ask you, Ryan, to give us a little bit of background on how your journey got started with dentistry and what got you where you are today.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So we have to go back all the way to 2013. No, actually 2007 when I got into dental school. So
Okay.
It's funny, but the reason why I wanted to go into dental school, it was because I come from a family of doctors, and my parents were actually doctors, not dentists, and they wanted me to be a doctor. So I wanted to do that, but I only got into dentistry, and my father was kind of disappointed, right? Because you know what doctors say about dentists, like you're not real doctors, right? You're dentists. But anyway, I really love that because I had a cousin who worked as a dentist, and I was always impressed by this because it was a good mix between having this doctor theory part, and also you got to work with your hands, and you got to do something that people can see, can appreciate. You can change lives by changing smiles. So I really love that. So I graduated as a dentist in 2013. I worked in a private practice for about 4 or 5 years. And at the same time, I was doing, I was specializing in prosthodontics. So I did a lot of cosmetic dentistry, a lot of implant dentistry. That is an area that was fascinating to me. But then something changed because I was always enthusiastic about technologies. And I started, one day I read a book called Deep Medicine, called by Dr. Eric Topol. And so Eric is the leader in AI technology in the world of healthcare. And I was so impressed by how this technology was really changing the whole world of healthcare. I was improving. And I thought to myself, we have to find the same thing in dentistry. Why don't we have the same? And the big advantage here is that, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. All we have to do is just look at them, copy them, learn from the mistakes. And that's where I got into this whole new world, and I discovered dental monitoring. So for the people who don't know what dental monitoring is, today it is the leader in artificial intelligence in the world of dentistry. They do AI-powered remote monitoring. Maybe we'll have some time to talk more about this later during the podcast. But I joined them exactly 1.5 years ago, and I work today with them as a clinical education officer. I deal with a lot of key opinion leaders from all around the world. We do some research together on AI, on remote monitoring, and especially in the world of orthodontics so far.
Well, thank you so much for giving us your background. It's exceptional, like you're saying, and you're working with, I feel like, the future of dentistry, where a lot of people now they're working with teledentistry, and AI is being a big mover in that aspect, where you can literally use your cell phone and start mapping the mouth a little bit for certain procedures, which has been crazy, like to keep like watching what's happening within the mouth. And it's got to be very interesting to be kind of at the head of this and learning all about it and how it all works.
Very quickly to everyone, because they're wondering, teledentistry, remote monitoring, artificial intelligence, how does that work, right? And especially that artificial intelligence is a really big word. It's a concept that we have. It's really hard to understand because we're not, especially for the listeners, they're dentists and they're not engineers.
Right.
So just very simply put, I want to explain to you how the system works. The patient, it works especially with the patients who do orthodontics treatment, and it started with the aligner word. Because in the world of aligners, there's aligners, they were a great invention. They're aesthetic, they're convenient, they're really easy to do. However, the big problem is that some orthodontics, they call this the blind orthodontics, because you have no control over what's happening. You give the patient a set of aligners, and then you're praying, please be compliant, wear them 22 hours a day, please don't lose them or don't mess up the sequence. But other than that, you have zero control. And what happens in the world of dental monitoring, you give the patient a scan box, which is a piece of hardware that allows them to scan his teeth. And what happens is that when the patient go home with a cheek, especially cheek retractor, a scan box, he will be able to snap some photos of his teeth. That will be sending 20, 30 pictures to the system. The AI will be running a preliminary analysis for all of this. And then you as a doctor will be able to keep an eye on the treatment every week, every 5 days, whatever you choose as a protocol. I will not get into the details, but just to make it easy for you. You have a dashboard, you're keeping an eye on the patient's treatment. Every week you get all the pictures, and you send them special notifications and special educational tips.
That is incredible. Like you're saying, you just have the box, and then just at home, they're taking pictures, and that's just digitally getting sent over to that office. So it's like having your appointment, but not even having to show up. So convenience is nice. And I mean, to have a technology that can just snap that many photos, and then for a dentist to be able to look at that and see if the treatment's working, that is incredible. And it's like isn't it a full mouth image too, is how that box takes it, right? Like from all the way like to each side.
Yeah, so it's like kind of like the intraoral camera, right? Not the intra digital scanner, I mean.
Right.
So it's like in a video mode, but what it's actually doing, it's snapping, 30, 40 pictures, and the AI will, scan them for quality, choose the best quality ones and merge them all together. So it's like having actually an intraoral scanner at home. So
I'm like hyper smart mode. Yes. Because it knows which ones are the best images to send out to like give the dentist to see and look at it. Or orthodontist, but yes. But for the aligner programs, that's just like taking off like insane. I mean, everyone's starting to get into it, especially with orthodontics, because like you're saying, the convenience of it. And I mean, you gotta pray that it's working and they're staying with it. But it's definitely been a huge, big point where everyone's wanting to learn to get into it, because it is soaring, and it's very helpful for the patient for getting like you said, healthier smile, like a beautiful smile, realigning the teeth. So that's really great to hear, and breaking that down for our audience. Because like you said, this is probably just to put your toes in the water. I'm sure it goes even more in expansion. But if they check out dental monitoring, like that video you just posted over there, which I can link below, gives them a little more insight to kind of what you guys do with that.
The aim of our talk today is not to talk about this, but I just wanted to give them, a very brief idea of how it works.
Thank you for breaking that down and giving us some advice and telling us how it kind of got started and where you guys are at and doing with that. So that brings me to my first tech talk point, which is a diamond in the rough. So let's come on any product that, you weren't really sure if it was going to be major advantage in the practice, but ended up being a really good turning point, and it became a big advantage to your practice and when you started using it.
I actually love that question. And I want to answer that question in two different parts, if that's okay with you. So first, I want to talk about the non-dental stuff, and then there's the dental products, right? Perfect. And how both of them, they provide me with that unique selling proposition as a dentist. So the first part is I want to talk about the non-dental stuff. As I said to you before, I was in the prosthetic part of dentistry, right? So I was doing a lot of aesthetic work. And like most of dentists, like a lot of dentists like to do this because it's easy, it's nice, it brings a lot of money. But the big challenge is, how do you convince a patient that your work is better? How do you convince them to choose you over the dentist next door?
Right.
So at that point, early on in my career, I realized the importance of photography, right? Social media has become a trend. Everyone wanted to show off their beauty, and they simply wanted the best smile. And people actually don't give you much time to form a first impression, or
No.
they really try to judge you really quickly if you're a good dentist or not, especially if they're looking at your website. So at that point, I realized that dental photography could be a game changer for me. I already love photography, so I thought to myself, let's take it to the next level. So I bought myself a nice set of, wireless twin studio flash, a nice camera, and a macro lens, and that's how I started. Then I bought some books, I took some courses, and I started to take these nice before and after photos. And, I also learned how to take nice portraits, small videos, and so on. And honestly, that was a huge boost to my reputation. And so I created this very simple process where I used to snap really nice picture before and after, a nice portrait at the end. I'd email it to the patient and I said, you know what, here's a new smile. You can show it to whatever you want, share it with the world. And that's what they used to do, right? They used to share it with their friends, with their family. And that simple process brought me so many patients from word of mouth. Referrals were crazy. Then after that was, the small geeky tech stuff that almost no one pay attention to. Like I used to have an iPad and an Apple TV. And what I do is, for example, at the initial consultation, I'd snap a photo of their teeth with the iPad. And instantly I would project it on this huge screen in front of me and I would be doing a live demo. So it's not really something big, right? It's very small, it's geeky, but it is really impressive to a lot of patients, and especially the new generations. We're talking about and the Generation Z. They love this geeky stuff. Now, when we talk about the dental product that were really a game changer for me and that no one used to pay a lot of attention to was, I would say, intraoral cameras. And you know what? A renowned sales coach told me something once that I would never forget. Sales is all about the exchange of information. So it's not about having one glossy pitch, throwing it at the patient and working that it works, hoping that it works. No, it's about really taking the time to educate the patient, to give them enough time to explain to them what their problems are. Because if you ask any dentist or any patient, the number one complaint that patients have is that their provider don't provide them with enough explanation. It feels, the initial consultations feels cold. It feels like, the dentist don't care. So an intraoral cam allows you to change that game. Patients are seeing that cavity. They're seeing that broken crown, that inflamed gingiva, and so on. And now they know that you're not just trying to sell them the treatment, but you're showing them their problems. You're explaining it to them. So yeah, another dental product that I'd like to talk about that was a game changer for me was smile simulators. Why? Because for patients, seeing is believing, and it really allows you to tap into the psychology of the patient. So one example that pops in my head was an application called Vision that I used to use. What you do is you just take 3 pictures, one with the patient smiling, one with a cheek retractor in his mouth, and one with his face. And less than a minute, you can have a simulation of his future smile. So
this is called Vision.
Yes, it's called Vision. 2 minutes. Okay. If you have an iPad, or now it works even on an iPhone, all it takes is 2 minutes. You show them the teeth, and then you can, if they don't like the color, you can change it on the application. You can change of the shapes of the teeth, and sold.
That's great.
As easy as that.
Yeah, it's like a virtual try-on, virtual try-on smile. That's a great aspect. Exactly. And the word of mouth, and just like you said, seeing is believing. That's the key aspect. And patient education, I feel like, has been a huge topic right now with dental technology, like in general, like from dentist to patient, and understanding like when you're using this tool, why we're using it to help then better educate them on diagnosing them with the issue. Like they said, they're going to see the problem and you explain to them what that actual issue is. And that is just such a key aspect, which I think so many of my dentists, and even having you here saying that, it's like just so important that patient education is to the forefront. Because if they understand what's going on, they're going to feel more comfortable and you're going to have that relationship. It's not cold. Exactly. Because yes, it's usually pretty cold. And that's why I feel like a lot of people are scared of the dentist, because they don't really know what's going on. They just see a picture and it looks bad, but they don't know why.
Exactly. And that's why it's very important to make them feel that, you're authentic, you're genuine, you're showing them the problem. You're not just trying to sell them the most expensive treatment there is.
Exactly. Yep. And I agree with you where you have to use the tools to better improve that. I mean, again, building upon that relationship so they understand what is going on. Also bring up number topic 2, which is like one of my favorite things to kind of find out what dentists are using, which is like a no risk, no reward product. So like if you wouldn't have, tried it, you were afraid to gamble, but it was really worth it because it turned out to be a reward in your practice.
Question, because I believe, that's the one big question every dentist asks himself, especially when you graduate dentist school, right? You're like, okay, now what? Where should I invest my time? If I'm a practice owner, what should I buy? What gadgets should I buy? What should I not buy? And on and on. In my case, I discovered early on in my career that, as a dentist, the first thing is I want to talk about as well is just a little part that is non-dental. And I want to talk about the soft skills, right?
Yes.
Because in dental
and those
school,
are very important.
Right? Because I think that in dental school, they teach us how to drill, fill, and build. Almost like teaching an auto mechanic, right? But it was still my job to sell the treatment, to market my services, to be able to handle these anxious patients, to manage the teams, and so on and on and on. So I did invest a lot of time listening to great podcasts such as yours, reading some business books. I've been enrolled in great sales coach affiliated with the Dale Carnegie organization. And all of these little things were great stuff that really paid off really quickly. Now, regarding technology that really paid off for me was the obvious answer is teledentistry and artificial intelligence.
Yes.
We talked a bit about this, but
yes, we did.
Let me elaborate more on that here. As you know, I'm a tech enthusiast and I love to learn new technologies that can make us better at what we do. Now, let's go back before 2020 and before 2019. Before this pandemic hit, teledentistry was never popular in the world of dentistry, except for one thing, the military, right? Because they were the ones that invented this process in the 90s.
Right.
Other than that, you would never hear this word. No one cared about it. Except for one specialty, which was the orthodontics. Because with the emergence of clear aligners, like we talked about right now, they started to realize that although it was a great way of treating the patients, there were some problems that emerging with it, like the patient's compliance, like how to avoid the treatment derailing, and the patient coming back to you 2 months later and he lost his aligners, and now you realize that instead of finishing in 1 year, you'd have to take 1.5 years to finish the treatment. So this is why dental monitoring was working so well in the past few years, because some orthodontists, they started realizing the importance of this. Teledentistry can help you overcome this by keeping an eye on the treatment in between appointments. And I believe that this will become a thing in all the aspects of dentistry, not just orthodontics. Take periodontics, for example. Prosthodontics can be something like that. Even pedodontics for children. But in many cases, in this case, I was lucky enough to get knowledgeable in that world before the pandemic hit and before this started to become a hype. And the last couple of years as well, I became particularly interested in the world of artificial intelligence that I knew nothing about before. But as I said, I was looking at the world of medicine and taught me a lot. And ever since I got into this, in the world of dentistry, it changed a lot of things for me, changing my perspective on how I see things. So today, I think that, digital was the big innovation in dentistry in the past few decades. Today, and then moving on to the future, it would be the virtual dentistry. It would be the world of remote monitoring. It would be the world of artificial intelligence. And if you don't believe me, just look at where the world of medicine is going with that and how much they're achieving with that. And the same thing will happen in the world of dentistry.
Yeah, I think they're definitely, like you said, that's the way it's moving forward. And those words are very coming to the forefront. And thank you for elaborating on those points and kind of giving us those pearls of information on like why this is kind of becoming where you're saying like digital was definitely and still is, right now, I think very at the forefront. But I think it's kind of flexing where the AI is coming over and it's kind of becoming a piece where, I wanted to ask you, since, you work with this so much, are they kind of like where they kind of combined and help one another? So like the digital pieces of tech can be working interrelatively with AI. Like you said, like we're using a scan box, which is digital in a sense.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong. And then you're sending that information. I would say, then the AI is in the background of that software doing all the work. So is it something where it's definitely going to be like, where it's like, it's a puzzle piece. One needs the other to kind of work like more like efficiently.
Exactly. So awesome. let me get deeper in this because that's a great question. So when we talk about teledentistry, a lot of dentists, they tend to think about Zoom or WhatsApp calls or can be even FaceTime. Right. So the big difference here is that when you have AI, when you add AI to that digital piece, here's how it's a game changer. First of all, do you have the AI analyzing the pictures for you, doing the cropping, doing the teeth detection, and even go further to detect as much as 180 different clinical parameters in the mouth. It could tell you, you have, for example, a missing tooth here. You have a broken tooth here, a missing attachment, an aligner unseat, and so on. So on 180 clinical parameters that it can detect. Then the next step is that not only it will detect these problems and crop the photos and on, but it will also automate the whole communication. So according to the findings in the pictures, it will send a notification to the patient along with some educational tips on what to do and what not to do in that case. And at the same time, we'll send you, the doctor, a notification that, pay attention. For example, Ali is having a problem with her aligner here. You need to talk, you need to call her for an appointment, emergency appointment, and so on, right?
Oh,
so
wow.
everything
so it's
is connected
constantly
together.
monitoring it.
Yes, because think about it. If you're gonna tell each patient, just snap a picture and send it to me, then you're gonna end up looking at, thousands of pictures. That's
Yeah,
not
there's
efficient.
just too much to do. Yeah.
But when you're having the AI doing that for you,
It's gonna organize that.
Easy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the real power of merging AI with the digital technology that we already have.
And that's definitely where you're saying the game changer comes in, because you're just like, again, I think it's very efficient. It's down on that workflow where you don't have to feel so overwhelmed. Because you said, you're gonna have so many pictures to look at, you're not gonna have the time to maybe do all of that, where this AI is gonna break that down and also notify you when there is an issue. So it'll be like, okay, prioritize these cases, these are going well. So that's what I was gonna say, like, I think again, like it can be a really big game changer in helping dentists save time and getting a more efficient process.
Exactly.
Right.
So today, for example, if you look at the world of medicine, they use that a lot with their x-rays.
Yes.
And what the AI has been able to do in that world is that it's becoming so efficient that you have some specialties like dermatology, like breast cancer, where the AI is even more accurate than 10 doctors combined together.
And it is incredible that it's going to be so helpful in the future. So it's going to be so amazing to see how this all works out and keeps growing. And I'm excited to be learning more about it, because like you said, it's not something everyone knows about. So I'm really excited that we had you on here to explain that for us today. So this brings me to number 3. And this is just a quick question that I like to throw, that is the flop. So this again can be a dental product or any piece of equipment you bought or anything in general. Then you're just like, oh, it didn't turn out to be what you thought. It just kind of, wasn't as awesome as you thought it would be.
That's a hard one.
It is, yeah.
I would say in my experience, something that I bought and I regretted it later was, that cheap 3D printer machine that I bought once. And it was really not that great of quality, and it took so much time to to print the model. So a few weeks later, I ended up doing going back to old school and doing Alginate impression again for my WhatsApp, right? Because technology is great, but sometimes when you're not there yet, it's that's the problem when you're an early adopter, right? You're so excited about having this new technology, but if it's not there yet, it's not there yet.
It's not there yet. Yeah.
Other than that,
you
maybe
jumped on. And I just wanted to make sure, I wanted to touch on that. You obviously have just such great experience with working with different technologies. I just wanted to kind of pop quiz question throw at you is there any your favorite piece of technology? So when you were in the practice, what's your favorite piece to work with, or something when you trained? Just kind of wanted to I just wanted to ask you, kind of pick your brain.
I'd say AI my favorite, but let me say, so as a dentist, the first big disruption that I think changed the world of dentistry was obviously the intraoral scanners that allow us to do the STL5 3D models. Then as we progress in the world of dentistry, and as I said, we're moving into this whole virtual world of dentistry where AI is becoming a game changer.
Yes.
Something that I've seen that was a real game changer this year in the world of pandemic was virtual consultations. One example that comes to mind is SmileMate. SmileMate, for example, is a platform that allows the dentist to do virtual consultation with his patients. And the difference between SmileMate and doing a Zoom call like we're doing with a patient right now is few things. So first one is that it allows the patient to snap few pictures of him at any time of the day. That's one, so convenience. What happens then is that the AI would again look at the teeth, detect different problems, and automatically generate a whole report for the patient.
Oh, wow.
And this report is so comprehensive that it will show the patient, here are what your problems are, with a definition. Here's why it's important to treat it, and here's how you treat it. All of that is generated in one button, right?
That's insane.
Exactly.
Wow, that is incredible.
Right? So the patient snaps 2 photos. Few minutes later, he has a full report. All of his questions are answered. Now all you have to do is close that deal. So that's becoming a real game changer. Another technology that I love in dentistry that is now becoming very powerful also in the world of AI. They're using it, like I gave the example in the world of medicine, right? How they're using it to detect breast cancer in X-rays.
Right.
Today in dentistry, they're doing the same thing, right? They're using AI to try to detect all these different pathologies in the mouth on the X-ray, to where, to detect the nerve, the mandibular nerve and stuff like that. So they're using this more and more in dentistry. There are a few companies now competing over this, but that's really good news, because I mean, we're getting there. As I said, all we have to do is look at what the world of medicine are doing, copy them, learn from the mistakes, and do the same in dentistry.
And fix it.
Exactly.
Amazing.
And
That is
actually,
amazing.
one technology that came to my mind as well from a company called Pearl, that could be bad news for a lot of dentists, but they're using AI to detect false claims from dentists. Right?
Oh, wow.
So that is great news for insurance companies that will be saving millions of dollars each year. Really bad news for some dentists that, they try to manipulate the claim and stuff like that.
Yep. Move around paperwork. Yep.
Exactly.
So could you re-say for me in the audience, just so we can make sure, I want to put those links below for them. For
SmileMate.
SmileMate. And then the second thing for the paperwork would be, what's that software called?
Do you mean the one for the insurance or for?
Yeah, the insurance. Yep.
Yeah. So you have SmileMate for the virtual consultations.
SmileMate. Yep.
You have dental monitoring for the remote monitoring of orthodontic treatment.
Yep.
You have Pearl, which is a company that is now, using AI for dental insurance and on the X-rays.
Awesome. Brings me to number 4, which was my favorite question to ask most of my dentists, and also anyone who is working technology. How do you educate your patients when you're using these things, or how are you educating the audience here on how you're using the technologies?
Yeah. Another great question. And I think that it's very important to explain how important these technologies are. So, I mean, everything that you do with a patient, I'm not trying to show off, right? I'm not going to tell them, check out this baby intraoral scanner, it costs me $40K, right? No.
Yeah, no.
But I will make sure they understand deeply how they are benefiting from it. Why it's so important for their quality, for their treatment. Mm-hmm. For example, if I'm using an intraoral scanner to take a digital impression on the patient, I will explain that this digital intraoral scanner is allowing me to have fully digital workflow. It means that we have to bypass this whole silicone impressions thing that can be inaccurate, uncomfortable, and which also risks changing in volume because if they're not treated quickly and so on. So you're bypassing, taking less risk, more accuracy. I will tell them also that this camera allows us to be very accurate. The digital model that we create right now is never lost. It's on the cloud. So let's say the crowns that will be created will be used CAD/CAM technology for maximum precision and speed. Also, the design will be saved on the cloud. So let's say in 2 years' time, if you break that crown for whatever reason, it's and one button we can make it out again in a few hours. Right. If I'm using teledentistry with aligner treatments with my patients, here what I would say, I would tell them that I want to make sure that you undergoing treatment here is as convenient as possible, because we know that you as a patient are very busy. And one thing that makes my practice very unique is that I use teledentistry, and in my case, for example, dental monitoring, to conduct virtual appointments. What this allows me to do is to monitor the treatment progress, to better see the state of your teeth and your gums, and to communicate with you in real time. So for you, this means less time away from work, from school, from other activities, and we only see you in my office when absolutely necessary. So can you imagine the amount of time we're saving you in this office as well? So very often this results in shorter times as well because of how closely I monitor the treatment. So yeah, I mean, long story short, every time I'm explaining a technology to a patient, I try to make it all about them, right? Not about me and not about technology itself.
Right. You're giving them, you're telling them what the benefit is for them, giving them the result and explaining why it is important, why you're using it to help them and it benefits them. And I really like that. Whereas it's kind of telling your story there, the patient's story. You're letting them know their issue, how I'm going to be able to fix it, and then make you feel better, because it is all about that. That's what they're coming for the dentist in the first place. Your oral health is linked to your overall health. So, if you're healthy and you just have a good smile, your teeth are well taken care of, then you feel better. So I definitely think that's
exactly. No, I just wanted to add just one more thing.
Yes.
Because what I said, the first step is to build trust with that patient. So you have to acknowledge what the problem is. You have to inform them about, what the different treatment types are. But here's the thing. The importance of technology is that it helps you build more trust because, for example, when you're using the intraoral camera, you're showing them the problem in front of them on the screen.
Yes.
When you're using, let's say you're using AI on the x-rays, for example, when the patient just did a panoramic, you put it on the screen and one button, the AI is doing the analysis. The patient trusts the AI more than me, right? Because the AI has nothing to gain from the treatment.
Exactly.
Right? So when you show them this, you're showing them that, you're being really objective. You're using technology to give them the best diagnosis possible. And this is, the true power of technology.
Yeah. And that is like, it's a deeper dive. It's giving them more understanding and, having that tool to like give you guys like, okay, where you wouldn't even have thought of, and it's kind of giving you other other ideas of what to do in this procedure. Like, how can we look at this different ways? And like how you're saying, it just pre-zooms that in, like that is very useful. One less step for you to have to worry about. So yeah, and that is the power of technology, kind of using it to your advantage to where your patient gets the best, best pretty much education of it and gets the best result and feels good about it. So can't go wrong there. Well, great. I just wanted to say, Dr. Rayan, you've given us some wonderful advice today. I am so thankful for your time, and thank you for letting our audience hear all of your great AI advice and different tools that you've been using when you practice. I'm so glad to have you here, and I wanted to say thank you again, and thank you so much.
I just want to say again, also, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you. And, I hope just the audience finds some golden nuggets out of our talk, and I'll send you whatever links that you need to, help educate them more about this topic, which is becoming very important, and everyone should be well informed about this.
Yes, it is growing quickly. So dentistry is going this way. So definitely. And I'm very happy that we got to learn more about this topic today and learn about the different technology and how AI has been implementing into the world of dentistry.
For sure.
Well, thank you, Dr. Rayan.